What's going on, everybody? You hear the music, you know what time it is. I am KODX Factor, back in the building, back in the studio, live with another episode of our popular podcast, The Jump Off. Now, we are here live again this week, and it's a big release week as we've got quite a few games. The biggest game really coming out this week is, of course, the PS4 exclusive Spider-Man from Insomniac Games. So many of us are looking forward to it. We can't wait for it. The early reviews have started to come out already for it, and I've got to say the early reviews are pretty solid. Now, I know there was some backlash about the downgrade of some of the graphics on the game and stuff like that, but in all honesty, I don't think it's going to make that big of a concern. It's something that's been going on in gaming for quite a while. There's a pretty long history of games doing that and developers doing that. But for the most part, Spider-Man still looks beautiful. I mean, everything we've seen of it, it still looks fantastic. So I don't think you're going to have much trouble in the way there. So nothing to deter you away from getting your copy of Spider-Man if you have a PlayStation 4. And I don't know if Amazon had listened to one of our previous podcasts where we were talking about, you remember what we were talking about? You can go back, I think it's 2 episodes ago, where we were talking about Amazon doing away with their 20% discount to Prime members for video game pre-orders. Ironically, like 2 days later, maybe even 1 night later, the Spider-Man physical copies for the PS4 went live on Amazon, and they sold out probably within like 3 or 4 days. But they went live. So we were actually able to kind of secure one in here, so we were actually okay. And then a week after that, Red Dead Redemption is now up there. And I think as of right now, as of this very moment, it is still up there. So if you haven't gotten the physical copy or you're waiting for it to come out on Amazon, make sure you log into Amazon now and do it. We didn't find it listed at the top. We had to actually click on the digital copy of it and then select the platform and select the type that we wanted. So we selected the platform that we wanted and the physical release instead of the digital release. And that's how we were actually able to find it. So when I say we've been looking every day for these physical copies for these games, we looked every single day. And I think Battlefield 5 is still sold out, I believe, but they did announce a lot in regards to like the beta, their Firestorm Battle Royale mode that they've been talking about. So I'm sure we're probably going to see a restock of that on Amazon because, we were actually able to secure a physical copy of Battlefield 5 from Amazon. So they're probably just running into stock issues at the moment. They're just selling out like crazy. So it just goes to show that a couple episodes ago, we were talking about it and making a big stink about it. And not a day, 24, 48 hours after that promo had disappeared, then the physical SKUs started to pop up. And I find it very, very ironic. It's crazy. Don't blame Amazon for it because it's not their fault. It's actually the developer's fault. And I've heard they've been in a big dispute with Sony over the past year, which is why a lot of the Sony products have not been having physical SKUs on there because at one point it got so bad that they were even threatening taking away selling Sony products game-wise, period. So we weren't going to get any of the Sony first-party exclusive titles on Amazon at all. So I actually commend Amazon for kind of taking another step and saying, okay, you know what, we're going to sell it because we want to appease our clients, our client base. And the fact that they hit the $1 trillion mark just recently and put them in that echelon of $1 trillion companies goes to show that they actually pay attention to their customers, and their customer support has been great. Every time I've had to contact them, they've been phenomenal. So this isn't like a promo endorsement for Amazon, but we use them for a lot of the stuff that we do here in the office. But for the most part, they've been really, really stellar with their customer service. We greatly appreciate it. And to us, the Prime membership is still worth it, even if you don't get that 20% discount anymore. But you can go back 2 episodes and find out why we think that. But we just happened to find it very, very ironic. And this is the first time I've actually had a kind of an opportunity to kind of voice it. But we wanted to cover a couple things on today's show, one of which is there's still more stink in the air about esports being a part of the Asian Olympics that are getting ready to happen, and what the future for esports at the Olympics holds in store. I'll let you know my opinions on that here very shortly. But at the same time, I'll talk about that here very, 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 very shortly, because I do have an opinion on the matter. And then we also wanted to talk about the relation. Well, kind of what we started this show off with is Sony, and may they be getting a little bit too big for their britches in a way, not just because of the Amazon thing, but because they still refuse to involve cross-platform play with any of the games that they have on their platform. Because, and this is what we're going to start with. So let me shed a little light on what's going on. Just, let me cut myself off here. Let me shed a little light as to what's going on, so that way you guys have a clear understanding. Sony had made a comment a couple days ago in regards to cross-platform play. Now, they've been battling these questions for a number of months, because Microsoft is doing cross-platform play with a handful of games like Minecraft, Rocket League, and more recently Fortnite. And Nintendo was doing the same exact thing. They're allowing cross-platform play, especially with Fortnite, because that, honestly, that's their big one. And then you got Rocket League. But every time Sony is pressed or asked about this question, they just say, no, that's not something we're looking into. And it's always been as a question as to why, especially for Sony owners. Why don't you, what's the big deal? Why do you not allow cross-platform play? It doesn't make that much sense. The quote that they gave a couple days ago is a little bit jarring to me. They said, we're not going to allow, and I quote, cross-platform play because Sony, the PlayStation, is the best platform to play them on anyway. Okay, now look, I understand. Yeah, you want to talk up your device. You want to say it's the best platform to play any game on. All the console manufacturers are going to say that about their console. All of them. Microsoft says it. Nintendo says it. So what's going to be any different than Sony saying that? So yeah, we know that's going to be just the general response. But the fact that you use that as an excuse to not allow cross-platform play is kind of jarring. It's like, why? If it really is the best platform to play it on, then why don't you allow the cross-platform play to prove that then? Like, let your player base showcase that. So if you have a big install base that are playing Fortnite against players on the Switch or the Xbox One, and players are getting beat and they just happen to be playing on a PlayStation 4, use that to your advantage. Don't just cut it off to say, look, we're not going to allow it, period. Because are you afraid that other players from different platforms are going to call you out and be like, look, PlayStation is not the best platform to play this on? You're already winning the console wars this generation anyhow. So why not just take that extra step and say, you know what, okay, we'll allow it because, we want to appease the gamers. We want to do this for gaming. We want to do this for gamers. Allow yourself to be a part of that competition. You're not doing that. You're allowing only PlayStation owners to play PlayStation owners. Why is that? I don't understand it. And Sony has done this to themselves before. They're leading console sales. Their sales are doing phenomenal, and then all of a sudden their head starts to swell. Let's go back a couple generations and look. And Sony, if you're listening, I've been in this industry this is my third generation of consoles now. So I've been in this industry for quite a while. I've seen the growth and deflation of everything you've done, as well as every other company out there. Let's go back 2 generations. PlayStation 2 is killing everybody. I'm sorry. Nintendo, the GameCube, the Xbox, it couldn't hold a candle to what Sony was doing sales-wise with the PlayStation 2. Not to mention that the software was killing it on PlayStation. PlayStation owned it, and they owned that market. So Microsoft said, okay, you know what? We've got to do something to kind of help revamp what we do. We want to bring the Xbox out. So the next generation of consoles is upon it. So then comes the Xbox 360. It launches a year before Nintendo and Sony do. And they're knocking it out of the park. Their system's doing extremely well. It's doing what they talked about. It's doing what they had promised. And then Sony delivers theirs, and then Sony's got the big head. It's like, you know what? People are going to buy it anyway. We're going to charge an astronomical price for it. And the system launched and failed. It did not do well. Some people are going to argue with me on it, saying it didn't fail. Look, if you honestly believe that Sony won the last generation wars, you're really, really blinded by the Sony blinders. Yeah, I mean, you are one of those true Sony fanboys and nothing else matters. I'm sorry, but Sony had a horrible, I repeat, horrible last generation. And it's because that big head that they got, that nothing they can do is wrong. And Microsoft slapped them in the face early on, and then Nintendo came in to slap both of them in the face. So it didn't really matter there. But Microsoft led. If you look at just the console wars between Sony and Microsoft, Sony killed them last generation. So then comes the generation of the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. So Sony decides to take a little bit of a step back, learn from its mistakes from the previous generation, and reinstitute themselves as the gamer favorite. And they did that. And this generation of consoles is going extremely well for them. They're selling well. Xbox is not selling as well. They're both just always going to be kind of feuding back and forth. Nintendo did not do well at all with the Wii U, but they are doing extremely well with the Switch. So again, Nintendo's just kind of like that. It's like the tortoise versus two hares, and the two hares are slapboxing each other while the tortoise just keeps on chugging along and is then going to end up going to win in the race again anyway. But now Sony is starting to get the big head again. Think about it. They want to. Now they're not charging an astronomical price for the system. Their system prices are about comparable right now. I mean, even though that they have a shortage of the PlayStation 4 Pros, and there are some significant differences between the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X. If you had to choose a 4K system between the two, I would always highly recommend the Xbox One X. But that's just my personal opinion. But now Sony's still got the big head about it. Say, you know what? We're just not going to allow cross-platform play. Yeah, sure, the other consoles are going to do it. They're doing it. But we don't need to involve ourselves with that. We're bigger than that. We don't need to. We're above that. That's essentially what they're telling you. Regardless of whether you want to believe that or not, that's what they're telling you. We're above that. That's beneath us. That's the attitude they're presenting. If it's not that big of a deal, why not just allow your platform to do it? The other ones are. And Microsoft is willing to play ball with you and say, look, we're willing to allow cross-platform play with games between our consoles. So, your fan base can enjoy playing games with our fan base and vice versa. But Sony's just like, no, because our system's the best one to play it on anyway. We don't need to do that. I beg to differ. And this is going to show, and mark my words, today, September the 5th, 2018, when the next generation of consoles rolls around, I bet you Sony's not going to have the numbers that they expected. They're not going to lead the next generation console war. Because gamers in the community see this, the attitude that you take, and you're going to take that attitude into your next generation of consoles as well. Unless you make a drastic change. Unless you start changing up your ways and your attitude about things, you're going to take that into your next generation of consoles, and it's going to show. And gamers are not going to support it. They're not going to buy it in droves like they did with your previous generation. So I'm almost wanting to believe that the Xbox is probably going to take the next generations between the two, because we all know Nintendo's going to probably put out something in midway between the generation and just kind of kick the both of them in the rear. But Sony needs to stop playing with the big head that everything else is beneath them just because they're on top right now. Trust me, you've been on top before and took that long plummet down, and it took you a little while to bring yourself back up to that top spot. If you want to maintain it, you got to play. You got to play well within your competition. Yeah, it's going to be competition. You want to combat your competition and always go back and forth between your consoles. That's what always makes it fun. But when the community and gamers alike are more confused as to why you don't allow, especially something like cross-platform play amongst your consoles and some of your games, we're not asking for all of your games. Just some of those core games that are across all the major platforms. Fortnite would be a perfect one. Why not allow your Fortnite players to play against Xbox users? Because you already have it. You already have this stick up your behind because you're not allowing any other Epic account to be linked other than your PlayStation account. So you can't take your PlayStation account and link it to like your Switch account. Now, I don't know if that's just something because Sony and Nintendo or what, but I can't do it for my Xbox version either. I have to have a whole new one just for my PlayStation one. The other ones I can link, and they can kind of go back and forth between them. Like I could take my Xbox profile account that I have for Fortnite and play that one on my Switch, or vice versa. But I cannot do that with my PlayStation version. And I think this has some back channeling behind why, Sony is just still refusing to play ball here. I don't understand that. And I do not want to see Sony fail this next generation. But with this attitude that they're taking right now, I can see this very well happening very near in the future. And I hope it doesn't. I don't ever want to expect. I don't ever want to kind of predict someone to fail or look for a company to fail. But when you have attitudes like this, it's almost going to be inevitable. And mark my words, September the 5th, I would not be surprised if Sony loses or falls from their high horse all the way back down to the bottom again. Because of just these little attitudes that they're taking. And it always does it. Every other generation, it seems to always do it. We can charge whatever we want. No, our platform is the best one to play on. So we don't need to have cross-platform play. Why do we need to do that? I don't know. Why don't you play ball with the other consoles? Why don't you do that? They're all doing it for the community. You have absolutely no regard for that community at all. But that's just my personal opinions. I would like to know what your opinions are on the matter. So please make sure you comment and let us know, or tag us or DM us on Twitter, or you can tag us on Twitter, whichever you prefer. I'll be happy to kind of talk about this with the community, just to kind of get their thoughts on it. But now I want to shift focus a little bit over to the Asian Olympics and esports as a whole. Now, just recently, there were some comments made by some presidents with the Asian Olympics that are going on, because esports, if you didn't already know, some esports titles and competitions are now considered a part of the Olympics, but they're not like the big part of the Olympics, if you get what I mean. And I know some of y'all are like, okay, what's he mean by big part of the Olympics? So what I mean is, esports is a part of the Olympics as a whole. Yes, they earn medals. They earn the bronze, silver, and gold medals like any other sport and competition in there. However, the esports medals do not count. I repeat, do not count towards the country's overall total. So if esports contributed 2 gold medals for the United States, and the U.S. won 20 medals overall over all the other events, you would think, okay, so the U.S. won 22 medals, right? 22 gold medals, right? 20 amongst all the other events, 20 for esports. No, in the eyes of the Asian Olympics and the eyes of the Olympic committees, America will only won 20 gold medals. The 2 that they won for esports don't count towards the country's totals. They would still earn medals, but they wouldn't go towards the count of the country's medals. Now look, I have a couple of different opinions on this matter, because the big question here is, should esports be a part or be considered a part of the Olympic Games? Me personally, I do not believe so. That's a different category. That's a different realm. You've got Olympic athletes that are competing in Olympic-style events. And then you have esports. Now, some people's argument, or the Olympic Committee's argument, is that esports promotes violence because it encourages other players to kill other players in their games. Now, some of the games that are in esports for the Olympics are like StarCraft, League of Legends, stuff like that. I haven't seen like a Call of Duty one. There's no Battlefield one. There's no Gears one. There's nothing like that. There's no Rainbow Six. It's kind of like the MOBAs and the RTSs and stuff like that that are a part of the Olympic Games. But the Olympic Committee is saying that they're promoting violence because they're encouraging players to kill other players. Look, that's not the argument I would use for it. Me personally, my argument is Olympic athletes should not be considered on the same pedestal as esports or esports competitors. Because to me, the esports competitors are not athletes. They're competitors. They're not athletes. The Olympics as a whole are athletes. Those are athletes. They're competing. They train their entire life. They train their bodies, and they work 24/7 in the gyms and everything else. Gamers, yes, they work hard as well. They train on these games an awfully long time. Their communication skills have got to be top notch. They gotta interact well with their teammates. They got a lot of practicing to do. I get all of that. But you cannot compare the esports teams to athletic teams competing in the Olympics. They're two totally different realms. And I don't think that the esports should be considered a part of the Olympic community or the Olympic Games. I just don't believe that should be the case. Now, for the excuse that the Olympic Board had given because it promotes violence and stuff like that, yeah, that's a wash to me. I don't ever want to use that argument. Because how many Olympic sports are violent sports as a whole? Boxing has been an Olympic sport for God knows how long. And that encourages both competitors to beat the crap out of each other. So you can't use that argument with me for the Olympic Games. But you can use the argument that athletes and competitors, you can use that argument. And that's the one that I use. Because I don't feel that esports should be a part of the Olympic Games. My second argument with this is, if you are going to allow them to be a part of the Olympic Games, which they are part of the Asian Olympics coming up. Now, future Olympics are still kind of up in the air. They haven't confirmed any of that. But if you're going to allow them to be a part of the Olympic Games, whatever medals they win should count towards those countries' totals. Because that country, if they're there representing a country and they win a medal, that should count towards their country's totals overall. You don't just disregard that because of what type of event it is or competition it is. Even though you may not agree why esports is a part of the Olympics anyway, I don't agree with it. But if you are going to have them there, or it's voted on that they should be a part of the Olympics, and they are there, you have got to allow their totals or their medal totals to count towards the country totals. There's no reason as to why you can't have that. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. So you're basically telling them, like, look, okay, you're here, you're competing, it's the Olympic Games, but whatever you win, it's not going to be representative of your country. It's going to be an accomplishment for you and your team, but not one for your country. That's totally opposite of what the Olympics is for. Each country has a gifted amount of Olympians and athletes that they put into these games. And if you're one of the lucky ones to be representing your country in the Olympics, whatever you earn should count towards your country total, regardless of what type of event it is. So if you are to win a gold medal, a silver medal, or bronze medal in the esports competitions of the Olympics, if it's an Olympic event, it counts toward your country. Don't give me this BS that, oh, it doesn't count toward your country total. That's BS to me. That is the board saying, okay, we don't agree with esports being here, but since they're here anyway, they're just, they're the ones that don't really count. Don't do that. If you don't want them to be part of the Olympics because of whatever reasons, then vote that way. But if they are there, you let them represent their country the way that they should, and whatever they earn is a representative of their country, and their country should be proud of that, regardless of what event it is. So what if there's a country out there where they have an esports team, and that's the only competition they're going to be involved in at the Olympics? Or maybe they're a part of a bunch of different events, but the only medal that they win is in the esports category. You mean to tell me that country cannot say, oh, well, we won at least one medal? That's not right. You can't tell them that. You're gonna try to tell them, like, look, well, your medal doesn't count. It's an esports medal. It doesn't count. It's an Olympic medal. It's one that they get to physically have. They can keep. They can wear it. They can be proud of it. But that doesn't really count. What kind of BS is that? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. If it's an Olympic medal, it should count. Don't let some committee try to, push you into saying that, look, that's almost like, you don't belong here. Okay, if you feel that strongly about it, then why are they a part of the games to begin with? They could have their own competitions and be just as happy. But now you make them a part of the Olympics, but yet you treat them still as like an outsider. I think we have enough of that in just this country, and I'm sure other countries as well, already. Do we need to further make this an issue? Fix it. Whatever they earn, no matter where they earn it, if it's an Olympic medal, it should count towards their country's totals. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I would love to know your thoughts and opinions on the matter. Please let me know what you think. You can either let me know on Twitter or you can let us know in the comments for this show or on YouTube or our website, whichever you prefer. We will greatly appreciate it. Now, we will not have any show next week. We're going to have a low list of videos that are going to be hitting our YouTube channel next week as well, because we will be gone. We will actually be out of the state. We are heading to Florida. So, me personally, I will be out of the office area, so I will not have any new. I will not have a new show. We have a backlog of videos that we had already pre-recorded going into next week to keep our channel going with, constant updates and stuff like that. So we have a pretty big backlog of games or in-game videos to keep uploading to the channel. So you're still gonna have some new content in the way of videos going up while we are away. It's just we will not have a podcast next week just because of that very reason. We will not be here. So for some of y'all that were wondering as to why we may not have a show next week, it's that reason, because we're going to be gone out of the state next week. Well, me and my family are going to be out of the state. So we will not have a show next week. But like I said, we have a backlog of videos ready to go for next week as well, for this weekend and next week, because we leave this weekend, so we're not going to have much in the way of content this weekend either. And it sucks because Spider-Man launches this weekend. So the videos for Spider-Man for PS4, we may have one or two Let's Play videos for that. Our review for that game may be a week late, just because, like I said, we're not going to be here. So when we do get back to the video recordings full time, we will have the review for Spider-Man for you. We will have the review for NBA 2K19. And then we got Tomb Raider coming along this month as well, so we will have that for you. But just in the week that we are gone, NBA 2K and Spider-Man will both have launched. So those reviews will be a little late, so just bear with us on that. But we will try to get together as much as we possibly can for those titles for you guys, just so we have content for those games coming your way. So we're not going to forget about them. We haven't forgotten about them. We're going to try to get as much content up as we can for Spider-Man before we leave. But if we don't have much in the way of Spider-Man before we leave, that's the reason why. And when we get back, we'll have a bunch of content for both of those titles going up or leading up to the following week, which we will be back that following week for our podcast. So we'll have a lot to catch up on. So that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, please let me know what you think in the comments. You can subscribe to our podcast via iTunes or Google Play or TuneIn or Podbean.com. You can also follow our website at www.GameNightLounge.wordpress.com. You can follow our YouTube channel. Our channel is The Game Night Lounge. You can follow us on Twitter at Game Night Lounge, or you can follow me personally on Twitter at KODXFactor. And if you watch a lot of Twitch videos, we do have a Twitch channel as well. It is twitch.tv/KODXFactor. That is linked to our Game Night Lounge Twitch channel as well, so they all just kind of talk with one another. So that's going to do it for us. We hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please let me know what you think. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. I am KODX Factor. This is The Jump Off. All the guests that appear on this show and feature shows are part of the Game Night Lounge Media Network as well. And until next time, game on.